What's up, guys? I am back again with another video, Life According to Bob. Life According to Bob. I don't know if I'm going to keep that title on my channel. I've said it on a couple of other videos. I want something catchy, like wisdom tooth. I don't know. Life According to Bob is like, wisdom tooth? That's kind of cool. Wisdom tooth. Anyway, I am back with another video about death. And specifically, I want to talk about that partly because I'm getting old and it's creeping up on me. We don't know when we're going to die. We have no idea. And it's kind of, I've been in touch with my own mortality since I was young. I always knew, like I grew up during the Vietnam War era, and I had one of those MIA POW bracelets. I remember back then. I remember I was taking drafting. My mom had picked it out as one of my electives in junior high school. And I'm like, drafting? I don't want to take drafting because, I don't know, I somehow made the connection to being drafted. And I don't know. Anyway, being in touch with my own mortality as long as I have, even to the point where, and I've said this in other videos and I'll talk about it further, I'm going to make a separate video as when I was on the street when I was 15 years old. Kicked out, mom kicked me out. Long story. Anyway, I was on the street for a couple of years before I joined the Army at 17. And while I was on the street, my main focus was not to get arrested. My main focus is not to go to juvenile hall. But also in the back of my mind, I thought about death. And I thought about, somebody can come out here and kill me easily if I'm sleeping on a cardboard box and on the sidewalk and all that stuff. And during that time, and I'll go into this further when I do a video on my street life, as it were. But I remember cocking open the emergency exit of a building a couple of times, more than a couple of times, so that at night when they close, 5-6 p.m. or whatever, that I could go up the emergency stairway, up to the roof, and I could sleep on the roof, which probably, it's not just about the death thing or being injured, but it was safe from bugs, cockroaches and stuff like that. There's not a whole lot up on a roof, 10 stories up. And it was an automatic alarm clock, like 5:30, 6 o'clock, that sun is beating on you. I grew up in LA, and so it wake me up. There was a lot of advantages to that, but the main focus was staying out of harm's way, so to speak, when I joined the Army. And so arguably you could say I cheated death on the street because I'm still here. When I joined the Army, my ASVAB test, which is basically the test that you take to figure out what your MOS could be, like what you're suited to do. Mine was very limited. As I said, I hadn't graduated high school and I didn't do that well on the ASVAB. So I was limited, and I don't even remember now. I think it was basically infantry, like that was about it. And I became a mortarman, 11 Charlie C, which is mortarman, 81 millimeter, 4 deuce millimeter, et cetera. 4 deuce, 4.5. At any given time during basic training or AIT, or even airborne school, because yes, I went airborne about a year after I joined. At any given time during basic training, I could have died, because back in the 70s, the drill sergeants were very harsh. And there was a lot of things that they put you against that you had to challenge yourself, that literally it's different now. They even have stress cards in their pocket, which is amazing to me, that you could actually pull out a stress card and your drill sergeant has to stop yelling at you. I'm like, what? But yeah, arguably there are a lot of times in basic training that I could have died doing all the different stuff that we had to do. A year later, when I went to airborne school, oh my goodness, yes, there were many, many times where I thought about that. In fact, it was funny. I wrote out It wasn't like an official wheel, but I just wrote out on a piece of paper on my first jump, if I die on this jump, my sister gets this, my mom gets that, and I put it in my locker before my first jump because I was scared. Oh my God. Even though it was 3 weeks of training, well, 2 weeks and then jump week, I just thought I could perish. And ironically enough, when I got to my duty station, which was 82nd, there was a rigger who would actually cut the static lines. I think they found 10 or 15 static lines that were cut. The static line is inside the parachute, and when you hook up your static line, it opens up the parachute when you go out the door. And those chutes would not have opened. And I think there was one officer, I think he was a captain or something like that, that was unfortunate enough to pick that chute, one of those chutes, and he died. Yeah, well, you have a reserve, but you're only jumping, 1,500 feet up, 2,000 feet up, so you don't have a lot of time to think. Yeah, cheated death on every jump I did because you just don't know. Later on, when I was at the 82nd, we did the rescue mission for the hostages in Iran, the 50 hostages that were taken, and fumbled the ball on that one. If you can go research, go on YouTube and find out. So yeah, 82nd was sent in. It was multifunctional. There was Air Force, Marines, and Navy. Everybody was involved in that rescue mission. There was a lot of people involved, but ultimately, like I said, we fumbled the ball, and some people died that were in the fumble of the ball, the helicopters and planes and stuff like that were in the desert. And like I said, you can Google that. And so, yeah, I cheated death then. When I got out, eventually I got into security work, and security work, it's kind of like, well, whatever, it's not that dangerous. Years later, I got into the fire department in Santa Barbara County. And I think firefighters are only second to coal miners. I think they're only second to coal miners, or at least they were back then, to how many deaths per 100,000 or whatever. Did I ever find myself in a compromising position when I was a fireman? No. But it could have happened. Roof collapse. There's so many, smoke inhalation. There's toxic chemicals that you don't know if they're toxic or not until, it's a canary type of thing. So many times in my life, if I took all those times that I took chances, because I did, a lot of this was voluntary. And there's a lot of people that like the adrenaline high of cheating death. The guys that, the parasailers, and not parasailers, who are the guys that jump like they're bats and stuff like that. And they die, but they're dying doing something they love. So there's that. But me cheating death was voluntary in that I chose the occupation and I chose certain things, but without the anticipation that I would die. But you don't know. So I've mentioned some of the jobs that I've had in my life, some of the paths that I've had chosen for myself in jobs. I ran across this video today that kind of gets to the point. Yeah, some of my jobs were dangerous, but oh my God, this guy, and I know what he was doing because I used to work in the apartment business and HVAC and all that stuff. So he's swapping out what they call a mini split system. It's the condensing unit that usually is outside. So there are two parts, and one outside and one inside. It's ductless, basically. There's no ducts running through it. And he has to do it in this building that looks to me, he's about 20 stories up, at least 20 stories up, could be taller. And I believe it's probably like Hong Kong, because there's a lot of big buildings in Hong Kong. And if you're talking about cheating death on a job, I've never seen anything quite like this. I'm going to bring this video up because this guy, watch this stuff. Watch what he has to do.
Lanjut, tangan dulu. Perfect.
So everything that he's done so far is in an effort to secure himself with his harness. All those ropes and all those toggles and all those things that he had to drill into the wall are only to secure himself. He hasn't even got to getting this AC in there in that little closet yet. So I'm going to fast forward and show you where he's just installing the AC unit and then has to reverse all of the mode that he just wants. Do you see how high that guy is up? Is any money worth your life? Like, how much does this guy get paid? Like, if they paid me, I don't know, 10 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand to do this job, this one simple job that he's doing, installing this unit, I would turn it down. And this is the air conditioning unit I was talking about. Everything he's done is in preparation just to move this unit, 10 feet away. Yeah, so I just sped it along for time's sake, because no point in having you suffer through through all that mess. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! You know, you see tree climbers and you see linemen up on top of poles and all that stuff. Infrequently, but you see it and you're like envious, not envious, but you're in awe that they would climb a tree or climb a pole and be up there, dangling window washer, same way. But there's some type of person that would intentionally put themselves in that type of harm's way for what kind of money? For what? One false move, one of those little toggles that he's screwing into the wall there to hold the oh my God. My life experiences of my jobs compare nothing to that. I'm just saying. That is cheating death right there. I don't know if he does it daily, but it doesn't matter. Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, just wanted to see that. So then going forward in my life, then I left the fire department, ended up backpacking Europe, got a backpack, sold everything I owned, got a one-way ticket to Amsterdam, landed in Amsterdam with my backpack, didn't know the language, didn't know the culture, didn't know the people, hitchhiking on the Autobahn in Germany. Don't ever hitchhike the Autobahn in Germany. So many things could have happened to me on my adventures in Europe, just hitchhiking around 5-6 different countries and all that stuff. Knowing that in the back of my mind that I have to be careful and my head on a swivel and all that stuff. Yeah, arguably that does save you from possibilities of putting your life in harm's way. But nevertheless, I mean, the plane could have crashed on the way there. I've taken many planes and there's been turbulence and I'm like, oh no, so I guess what I'm saying is, through my life with different things and then traveling, I lived in Jamaica for a couple of years and I went back and forth, 2 or 3 times a month for years. And Jamaica is very dangerous. And I've had dangerous encounters where I've had a knife pulled on me in Jamaica a couple of times. I'm not going to go into stories like that. There wasn't a whole lot of issues that I ran into, but there were some. And people in Jamaica, if you've ever been there, drive crazy. And I got into that. I was 41 years old, and my car was my midlife crisis car. It was a 95 Nissan Sentra 5-speed. And I was driving like them. And there was one time I was driving like a maniac, basically, because I could. There was one time I did a high five with somebody. A high five is when both of your rear view mirrors slap each other. That's how close we were, like literally like that. Neither one of us stopped. I fixed my mirror and all that stuff. My epiphany about this whole idea that I could die was one time I was driving on this country road and there was like these I think they were electrical wire, telephone wires. Anyway, they ran along this curved road like this, and I could see oncoming cars by the lights on the wires. And I was trying to pass this whole lane of traffic and all this stuff. And I could see there were some lights in the distance, but it was far enough that I thought I could do it. So I went around to pass this line of cars and I was stepping on it. And the more I stepped on it and I saw the lights coming around the corner and all that stuff. And then it's like, oh crap, I'm going to hit this car head on. Well, the car veered off the road slightly to miss me and ended up in a ditch. I didn't stop. I knew that they weren't injured because, well, anyway, I didn't stop because it would have been a lot of drama. And I feel bad about it now, but they saved my life. That person that did that saved my life. Stupid. Yeah, at 40 years old. And I slowed down after that. I did not take chances like that anymore. And then that was 40. There's still another 24 years to go of my life, like going to the Dominican Republic on many times and very, very dangerous there, more so than Jamaica, being here in the Philippines, which is where I'm currently at. I've been here 5 times. There's a lot of peril in your life where at one point in your life you're going to die. All the people that have died before you. I remember I worked at a hotel when I was, I think I was about 30. I think I was about 34, 35 years old. My manager, this woman who was a manager at the hotel, was having an affair with this guy. Anyway, They ended up getting in a car accident and she died. And I remember going to her funeral, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, like she's so young and all that stuff. And that was a lifetime ago. That was like 30 plus years ago. And I've outlived her. When Elvis died, I remember I was 15 years old. Elvis died. He was 42. I've outlived him. I always think about who I've outlived. Like even my dad died at my age. My dad died at 64. I'm 64 now. So, I always try and put my own mortality in some type of contextual box that I can say, you know what? I've either made really, really good decisions, or I've been extremely lucky, or I've got a guardian angel, or it's just not my time. If you, like the Buddhists, believe that when you're done learning your lessons, you're gone. However that happens, plane crashes, you're driving down the road and the head-on collision happens, or you just drop over dead with a heart attack like I almost did last month. You just don't know. So one of the reasons that I'm making this video is I want to make it clear, especially to Gen Zers, people that are my son's age. He's 27. Well, he's 27 today, in fact. That's not wanting to take chances. That mindset of being on video games and being cooped up in the house and not going out in the world to actually live is cheating your life. You're cheating your life by not living, by not taking chances. I'm not suggesting you do all the stuff I did, but what I'm saying is, look at George Bush, for example, Senior. When he jumped out of a plane, I think he was like 85 years old or something like that, when he did some skydiving, because he never did it and he wanted to do it, and it's never too late. So what I'm saying is, be in touch with your own mortality, but don't hold back on that what you want to do. One of the spices of life, of all those things that I've mentioned, is that they're memories. That these are the things that I was scared to do. Every one of those things I mentioned, being on the street, I was scared. Being, going to Europe without any safety net or anybody to reach out to or whatever, I was scared. I was scared to go there, not knowing the language. I was scared to jump out of the plane. I was scared to go to Iran rather. I was scared, when I was a fireman, there was always that present danger that you don't know. I mean, somebody could just hit the fire truck and I'd be dead. We're on some type of call or something like that. You just don't know. But it didn't stop me. It did not stop me from pursuing all those things, is what I'm getting at. And so, especially if you're younger than me, listen to what I'm saying. Do that. Do your dream. Don't have a bucket list. At the end of your life, when you're my age, 60, 64 years old, 70 years old, and then you get the bucket out and you go, okay, let me do this and let me do that. No. Don't have a bucket list. Have a sticky note or 2 or 3. I've got 2 or 3 sticky notes, but if I never manage to knock off that sticky note or this one and I leave, okay, I'm good with that. But I've basically done all that I've wanted to do in my life. I guess what I'm saying, because I haven't held back. And insofar as when I'm going to die, I have no idea. When I leave here in a couple weeks, I could die on the plane. And those sticky notes won't matter. And my house and my trucks and all the stuff, the valuable stuff that we think is valuable, doesn't matter. And I'm aware of that now. I don't own anything. Everything that I have at home, my house and my trucks and all that stuff, is on borrowed time. Somebody else will end up with that stuff. Whether it's my son or my ex-wife, or somebody's going to end up with that stuff. It's not mine. I'm just borrowing it. My whole life I've been borrowing stuff. And you are too. You don't own anything. And you don't own your life. You don't know when your life is going to be taken. So do that stuff now. Do the stuff that you want to do. Don't procrastinate. Oh, well, it's not the right time. I don't have enough money. It's too dangerous. And all. You can excuse every possibility of knocking out that bucket list, right? You can make every excuse and every reason a viable reason why you didn't do X, Y, Z. When I went to Europe, I think I had $1,000 with me in my pocket? I think. Do you know how much $1,000 lasts anywhere nowadays? Like, there's never a good time. I should have gone to Europe, comfortably with 15, 20,000, 40,000 or something, and then just backpack for a year or something like that. I didn't ultimately. But what I'm saying is that putting off tomorrow what you can do today is a bad choice. If you're stuck in a job where you don't have but a week vacation, don't waste that going on spring break. Don't waste that on going, here or there, or whatever. Pull something out of that bucket list, the one that you started when you were young. When I'm an adult, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Pull those things out and do those one by one. Knock those things out when you're young. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Don't be apprehensive. Just everything's going to be okay. In every single situation I was in when I was scared, when I encountered it, it was less scary than my mind made it to be, because your mind can overtake your common sense. Your mind will trip you up, and it'll trip you up so much that you just, no, I don't want to do that. Anything. What if this happened? What if? You could do that all day long and never experience life. It's so fragile. Life is so fragile. You don't even know, especially if you're younger and you're listening to this. I'm telling you what I know. Life is very fragile. And so to waste it, to do nothing. I have a friend of mine. He's older. He's 82. He's got Parkinson's. He had a stroke and all that stuff. And he's on his way out. I'm surprised he's still around. Why he's fighting, I don't know, because we discussed this many years ago, and he doesn't like the situation he's in, but he hasn't been taken yet. Anyway, long story short, I met up with his daughter, which I had never met her. She claims I met her when she was about 20, 21 at one of his parties. And I don't recall her. She is, how old is she? 38. I think she's either 38 or 39. She's pushing 40. Doesn't have a passport. Like, how can you be 40 years old and not have a passport? Oh, never a reason to leave. I've never had a reason to leave Georgia. What do you mean a reason to leave? Like, you don't need a reason. Like, what if you met some guy at the mall and he was rich and he's like, hey, let's go to Europe and have breakfast or something like that? You can't do it. You stop yourself by not allowing yourself possibilities, and having a passport is one of those integral type of things, right? I've had a passport since I was 20, 21, something like that. And I renew it every 10 years, like on cue. So it's just hard for me to fathom at her age not having a passport. So make your life, design your life in such a way that not only can you knock out things on that bucket list, but you make it possible to do anything that you don't even anticipate doing later on, but you might. She could have had a passport renewed twice already and never gone anywhere, but at least she has it. Maybe she's scared. I didn't talk to her about that. Maybe she has apprehension. Again, you can block yourself from doing a lot of things in life. And, I guess what I'm saying is, as much as I've done, other people have done more. And I'm jealous of those people. I'm jealous of people that have, scaled Mount Rushmore and done, like all this different stuff. Not Mount Rushmore. Who am I thinking of? I don't know, that big mountain people die on all the time. I'm not a climber and I hate cold weather, so I would never do that. But I'm still envious of the fact that they had the gonads to do it in their lifetime and not worry about, when they get old and try and pull things out. Because when you get old, what are you going to be able to accomplish? I'm just saying. So take it for what it's worth. It's kind of a short video compared to my other ones. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Please, please, please subscribe. I would appreciate it. Doesn't cost you a dime. I'm going to come up with other topics. If you want me to talk about a topic, if I have experience at it, then I will definitely talk about it, and put it in the comment section what your experiences are. I would really like to know, like, if you went diving with sharks or something like that, something that you that you tempted the hand of your own fate, so to speak. Like you've tempted that. That would be fascinating. If some of you could just put in the comment section what you've done that you're like, you know what, I shouldn't, but I'm going to. And you did it and you accomplished it and you succeeded and you're still around to tell the story. I would love to hear about that. But anyway, if there's any other topics that you want to hear about, put it in the comment section. If I have experience about it, I will talk about it. And yeah, you know, like wait for the next one. I don't know what the next topic is going to be. I got so many. And this is unscripted, by the way, just to let you know. Everything on every single one of my videos, I don't have a script, and I should. I should at least have a checklist of the different things that I want to talk about, but I don't. So if you haven't noticed, it's like top of my head. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's how I'm doing my videos. If you think it's more concise and easier for me to script, then yeah, put that in the comment section. I'll try and script something when I talk. But just easier for me, top of my head. Yeah, so go out and enjoy, go out and tackle life. You know, like Nike says, just do it. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid to live your life. Be more afraid that you're at the end of your life and never have lived it.